Texans defensive lineman will give drivers the command to start their engines. He raised more than $41 million for the victims of Hurricane Harvey. You'll remember that in 2017. The Great American Race is this Sunday on Fox. Well, tonight, one lucky pooch will be declared top dog at the Westminster Dog Show. The competition is heating up with some family drama, though. It seems like Bourbon the Whippet pulled an upset over her brother Whiskey and advancing in the competition in New York City, but she was later beaten in the Hound group and then eliminated. Cute dogs. Well, now it is time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. A heartwarming photo of two young boys stopping to honor the flag is now going viral. A fire chaplain in North Carolina says the kids put their hands over their hearts and said the Pledge of Allegiance when they saw the fire department raising the flag. It's been shared on Facebook more than 4,000 times. And now the bad. These camels running loose in Arizona, and it wasn't even hump day. Police officers safely corralling the pair after finding them cruising through a quiet neighborhood. Those officers are now trying to find the owners of the camels. And finally, the ugly. A lotto winner hoping to scare people away from knowing his identity. The man wearing a mask from the horror movie Scream to hide his face as he collects more than $1 million in Jamaica. He claims the winning numbers came to him in a dream. I don't think if I'd want people to know who I was either. That wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
We're doing whatever we have to do. The wall's being built. It'll continue. It's going at a rapid pace. If we had proper border security, including a very powerful wall, it would be a lot safer and a lot better. We are one united movement, one united people, and one United States of America. And we will make America great again.
All right, Tuesday, February 12th, this is a Fox News alert. The president heading right into the heart of the immigration crisis with strong words about border security in El Paso, Texas.
And on Capitol Hill, lawmakers say they've had a deal they're confident in and the president will sign, but what's in it? We are live in Washington. Plus, a freshman Democrat is feeling the pressure from Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, her about face over comments that many called anti-Semitic. Also, Garth Brooks back in the big leagues.
The buzz surrounding the country music star's return to Major League Baseball. Fox and Friends First continues right now. I love this song. I could listen to it all the time. You know, music like takes you back sometimes. That's one of those. It takes me back.
And he plays baseball. Apparently.
We are going to have more on that later.
So much today.
Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Tuesday morning. I'm Jillian Mealy.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for getting up early with us. And let's get right to a Fox News alert. An agreement is reached in principle to avoid a second government shutdown as President Trump takes his national security message straight to the southern border.
Walls save lives. My administration has put forward a compromise. It's compassionate, and it's going to solve our problem.
And now the clock is ticking for lawmakers to hammer out the details before Friday's deadline. So what's in it, and does it match the president's vision? Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with the breaking developments. A lot to unfold here, Griff.
Yeah, there is. Good morning, Jillian and Rob. And, you know, in principle isn't terribly reassuring, but the devil is in the details. And there are plenty of areas for contention here, but it was clear that no one wants another government shutdown. So these four top negotiators found some common ground. Democrat Senator Patrick Leahy had this to say.
There's not a single one of us is going to get every single thing we want, but nobody does. But we're going to get what is best for the United States.
All right, so what's in this? $1.375 billion for 55 new miles of border barrier, all in the Rio Grande Valley. Democrats not wanting to call it a wall, but Border Patrol can use any currently deployed design, including steel slats, to build it. Then there's this. Democrats are claiming a 17% decrease in ICE detention beds. There are currently just over 49,000 ICE beds. This tentative agreement would curb that funding down to just over 40,000. But there's wiggle room because there's additional funding elsewhere where DHS authority could use to find additional beds should they need to respond in the case of a surge in apprehensions. Democrats, by the way, dropped one proposal that was drawing a lot of heat. They scuttled an effort to cap the number of detainees caught in areas away from the border, meaning the interior U.S., at 16,500. That probably moved things forward a little bit. Now the big question is whether President Trump will sign it, considering it's much less than the original $5.7 billion requested.
Progress is being made with this committee. Just so you know, we're building the wall anyway. So we probably have some good news, but who knows? Who knows?
Well, we will know when that language is released. That's probably Wednesday when this starts to move. And if it does move, that clock is ticking, so they'll have to hurry before midnight Friday, guys.
All right, Griff, thanks so much.
And what would a decrease in ICE detention beds mean for communities across the country?
Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page from North Carolina says it could be dangerous.
It jeopardizes public safety. I look at it if we put a cap in my jail, at a local jail, and said you can't house no more than 200, then where are these persons going to be? They're going to be out in the community with the opportunity to re-victimize persons in our communities. And right here it says from the paperwork I presented,
you gave a letter to the president.
I gave the letter to the president. 72% of the persons that are being held, they're being held for mandatory detention crimes. And 90% of the persons that are being detained are charged or convicted of criminal offenses or in deportation status.
Page was one of several sheriffs to meet with the president at the White House yesterday, stressing the importance of immigration and customs enforcement in their communities.
Beto O'Rourke taking part in a dueling march and rally against President Trump in El Paso. The Democrat painting a very different picture of safety to more than 1,000 supporters in his former congressional district.
Safe, not because of walls, but in spite of walls. We stand for America, and we stand against walls.
And about a mile away, President Trump mentioned O'Rourke, who lost his U.S. Senate race to Ted Cruz.
A young man who's got very little going for himself, except he's got a great first name. He challenged us.
O'Rourke will decide if he's running for president by the end of the month.
All right, the governor of California pushes back against President Trump, pulling some National Guard troops that were ordered to the southern border. Democrat Gavin Newsom claims the deployment is not necessary.
The crisis on the border is a manufactured crisis, and we are not interested in participating in this political theater. This is pure politics, period, full stop.
All right, Newsom says he wanted to withdraw all of California's National Guard troops from the border, but he decided to keep some in place after he consulted with his advisors. All right, the president slamming Congresswoman Ilhan Omar for her apology after accusing a lobbying group of paying members of Congress to support Israel. The president telling reporters, quote, "I think she should be ashamed of herself. I think it was a terrible statement, and I don't think her apology was adequate." In her apology, the Minnesota Democrat says in part, quote, "My intention is never to offend my constituents or Jewish Americans as a whole. We have to always be willing to step back and think through criticism, just as I expect people to hear me when others attack me for my identity. This is why I unequivocally apologize." However, Omar is still standing by her views on lobbyists, saying in part, quote, "I reaffirm the problematic role of lobbyists in our politics, whether it be AIPAC, the NRA, or the fossil fuel industry."
Michael Cohen's Senate testimony is postponed. His lawyers blame the delay on, quote, "due to post-surgery medical needs," after Cohen recently underwent shoulder surgery. President Trump's former lawyer is also expected to testify before the House Intelligence Committee on February 28th. His 3-year prison sentence for financial crimes and lying to Congress begins next month. The former Chicago police officer who shot and killed Laquan McDonald could get a new sentence. Prosecutors believe the nearly 7-year sentence given to Jason Van Dyke last month is not enough. They're asking the Illinois Supreme Court to review the case. Van Dyke was found guilty of second-degree murder and aggravated battery for shooting the 17-year-old back in 2014.
The father of a young Kentucky mother says that her 4-year-old son does not know that she is missing. In an exclusive interview, Savannah Spurlock's Navy veteran father tells Fox News that he has been taking care of his grandson for the last 2 months. Well, Savannah was last seen leaving a Kentucky bar with 3 men in early January. Search crews have been focusing on the Kentucky River and surrounding areas, trying to find her.
Talks between union and school district officials expected today as teachers walk off the job for a second day in Denver.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These unfair wages have to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
Teachers are demanding higher base pay as they strike for the first time in 25 years. Some students are joining the educators on the picket lines. Now look at that. Students chanting and dancing in the hallways. Schools are open despite the teacher strike.
Okay, powerful winter storm slamming the U.S. from the northwest all the way to the northeast. In Oregon, a tanker truck flips over onto a snow-covered road, spilling 2,500 gallons of diesel. What a mess. The storm prompting a ground stop at the Seattle airport overnight as well.
In Wisconsin, troopers respond to a 40-car pileup. Look at that, involving 7 semi-trucks. 1 person has life-threatening injuries. In the Northeast, snow is expected to disrupt this morning's commute for millions. Janice Dean is here, timing it out, and you've been warning us about this, Janice, and you said today is going to be a rough day for a lot of people.
It's going to be messy. It's not, well, for some it actually might be a blockbuster storm, up to 2 feet of snow, interior sections of the Northeast. But once again, New York, we're right on that freezing line. Temperatures right now at 31. So if the moisture gets in now, the likelihood is it's going to be snow. And then as the warm air moves in, we're going to get a mixture of freezing rain, sleet, and then all rain. Really, it depends on where you live. That's why people need to pay close attention to your local forecast. But I can tell you that we have an ice storm warning yet again for the Chicago area, where we could see accumulating ice. Definitely delays all day today across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, in towards the Northeast. We have winter weather advisories. Also, the flooding threat over the Ohio River Valley, where we could see flash flooding. Here's your future radar. That's going really quickly. My apologies. I actually had one that broke it down hour by hour. Now we have nothing. So I will tell you that coming up during Fox and Friends, I'll break it down for you timeline by timeline across the Northeast. I'm sorry, I'm flustered by this.
The flakes are just starting to fall outside.
Yes.
It's just starting.
Yes,
right now.
my apologies. But I will tell you, if you live across the Northeast, just pay close attention to your local forecasters. They're doing their best to get it right today.
Okay. Janice, thank you so much.
Thank you, Janice.
Next hour, we'll have real maps.
There you go.
It's okay. You give us the information. It's 11 minutes after the hour. Dozens of America's sheriffs have a warning for Democrats. Their plan to limit the number of ICE detention beds could put thousands of criminal aliens back on the streets. The chairman of the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, Tony Mace, is here to echo that warning next.
And up in smoke, presidential candidate Kamala Harris setting social media ablaze, talking about legalizing pot nationwide. Stay tuned.
And the Democrats came up with that because that means that you don't detain people that are very dangerous. It's a disgrace. That means we can't just put them back into Mexico or where they came. We have to put them back into our society. In some cases, they're stone cold criminals. We can't do that.
60 of America's sheriffs are speaking out against the plan to limit the number of ICE detention beds.
Yeah, and they're warning that as many as 8,000 criminals could get back on the streets if Democrats get their way.
Joining us live to explain is chairman of the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, Sheriff Tony Mace. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it. So break it down for us. How dangerous would this be?
Well, you know, you start releasing if you start releasing these individuals that are convicted of committing a crime within the United States, you start releasing them back into the general public. You don't know where they're going to go, and those crime rates, you're going to see those crime rates in your communities go up. And, you know, it's important that that we fund the ICE immigrants and the ICE efforts that they're trying to do to keep our community safe.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the Democrats' argument on this is that if your only crime is coming into the country illegally and otherwise you've been good while you've been here, you shouldn't be detained. As a sheriff near the border, what do you think of that?
Well, you know, I'm not near the border, but I do represent sheriffs that are near the border.
Sure.
That are border sheriffs right down by the Boot Hill in Santa Teresa, Antelope Wells. We see the individuals crossing the borders in hundreds. I mean, just last week there were 250 that crossed the border. They're, say, asylum seekers. We don't have the time to properly vet those individuals and see their past, their background, whatever. They could be the criminal element coming into the United States.
So what's your biggest concern that you want people who are watching, those in the public, to be aware of?
You know, our biggest concern is, you know, these individuals, some of them may come in for a better life. Some of them, you know, they've got the term the asylum seekers. You know, you can seek asylum in your own country. You know, come over here when they want to come over here illegally. They clog the system for the individuals that want to come over and become American citizens the right way. You know, New Mexico has a high rate of crime. We have a high rate of violence. I think we're 48th or 49th in the nation. And those add to some of the problems.
Yeah. Some numbers here real quick. If you look at from 2018, this is the crime numbers for illegal immigrants in this country: 1,641 homicides, 1,294 kidnappings, 3,740 sexual assaults, 29,000, almost 30,000 assaults in general from the illegal immigrant population, which could be as high as 10, 20 million people in this country. Now, if you ask some on the left that fight for their rights, they say that if you take a swath of the population of citizens, you're going to get numbers just like this. What's your position on that?
Well, you know, I think that's going to be underreported. Simply when you get like New Mexico, a lot of us are rural law enforcement agencies. Some of those numbers aren't accounted for, so they could be higher. And in New Mexico, what's important is sheriffs, county sheriffs, we don't run our detention centers. We private out to private contractors, and they house those inmates and those individuals that are committing that crime. We have a facility right here in Cibola County.
Let's talk about a different topic here for a second. Let's talk about new gun law proposals in New Mexico and 29 sheriffs taking a stand against this. Can you explain?
So this year in our legislation session, we have 11 new unconstitutional gun bills that were filed across the nation. We call them the red flag laws. 29 of the 33 sheriffs in the state of New Mexico basically are out lobbying with our legislators trying to stop these red flag bills. A lot of them have taken the stance that should they become law, that we're simply not going to enforce them. You know, we as the sheriff, we're elected by the people, for the people, of the people. We are here to represent the people and protect their constitutional rights.
That's interesting because, you know, you would think that a law like that would actually make your job easier, but it's interesting that you would stand up against a law like that.
Well, you know, some of these laws that they're enacting and the way the legislation is written, they're what we're calling fluff laws. They do nothing to protect the citizens of New Mexico.
And they just inhibit the rights.
Some of these bills, all they're going to do is there's no due process in them. A lot of them are ex parte orders, where the accused has no say-so on anything, yet they want law enforcement to come in and start seizing personal property, and we're not really getting to the root of the problem, whether it be mental health illness, whether it be domestic violence,
and any other number of problems. Yeah, absolutely. We understand. Sir, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. Sheriff Tony Mace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 20 minutes after the hour, President Trump hinting he might have a new best friend at the White House.
There is nothing better than a good old-fashioned German Shepherd. How would I look walking the dog on the White House lawn?
Carly Shimkus here with one of the most unexpected moments from the El Paso rally, and it's now going viral.
Thank you very much, El Paso. Thank you very much. We're setting the table. We're doing whatever we have to do. The wall's being built. It'll continue. It's going at a rapid pace. Illegal immigration hurts all Americans. But if we had proper border security, including a very powerful wall, we wouldn't have to work so hard. And it would be a lot safer and a lot better. We are one united movement, one united people, and one United States of America. And we will make America great again.
Good morning to you. It is Tuesday, February 12th, and this is Fox and Friends First, happening right now at 4 a.m. A Fox News alert for you. President Trump rallying in El Paso just as lawmakers reach a possible deal on border security. What it means for the wall as Democrats dig in on a new sticking point. And Beto at the border, the former lawmaker taking a stand against the president in his old district. How the president just fired back. And up in smoke, presidential candidate Kamala Harris setting social media ablaze with her take on legalizing pot. Fox and Friends First starts right now. Morning, you don't want to miss it. I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much, as always, for starting your day with us. Let's get right to that Fox News alert, though, for you, because we've got a lot of news to cover. An agreement is reached in principle to avoid a second government shutdown as President Trump takes his national security message straight to the southern border.
Walls save lives. My administration has put forward a compromise. It's compassionate, and it's going to solve our problem.
Well, now the clock is ticking for lawmakers to hammer out details of the deal before Friday's deadline. So what does it mean for the wall? What does it mean for ICE detention beds? Griff Jenkins joins us live in Washington with the breaking developments. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. Agreement in principle, if that sounds delicate. Because it is. And the devil, of course, is in the details. But for now, at least they are talking. Top negotiators seem to have reached some common ground that would avert Friday's deadline. Democrat Senator Patrick Leahy had this to say.
There's not a single one of us is going to get every single thing we want. But nobody does. But we're going to get what is best for the United States.
So what is in this? Let's take a look. $1.375 billion for 55 new miles of border wall. The Border Patrol can use any currently deployed design they want, including those steel slats. All of the miles will be in the Rio Grande Valley sector, or the RGV. That's the heaviest trafficked area of the entire southern border. Then there is this, which may be the sticking point today, and that is the Democrats claiming a 17% decrease in ICE detention beds. Now, there's currently funding for just over 49,000 ICE beds. This tentative agreement would curb that funding down much closer to 40,000, but there is wiggle room because there is additional funding elsewhere for DHS authority to use for additional beds should they need to respond to a sudden surge in illegal immigration. And Democrats dropped one proposal that was drawing a lot of scrutiny but may have really moved these talks, Heather, and that is they scuttled a proposal to cap the total number of detainees caught in areas away from the border at 16,500. Now, the other big question is whether or not President Trump will sign this. News reached him quickly in El Paso.
Progress is being made with this committee. Just so you know, we're building the wall anyway. So we probably have some good news, but who knows? Who knows?
Well, we do know it's certainly not the $5.7 billion that the president asked for. So we'll see exactly what the language is in this bill. It looks like it's probably going to be released on Wednesday, possibly late today, but very fluid. But good that they're still talking, Heather.
Yeah, down from $5.7 billion, which was down from the original $25 billion. I want to ask you, though, you were there in the Rio Grande area. This 25 miles of new border wall, is that enough for them?
Well, if you talk to the RGV Border Patrol officials, they'll probably tell you they'll take anything they can get, but there's always need for more because of the proven track record of having some sort of structure. You know, they say they need three things, Heather: infrastructure, technology, and manpower. Mm-hmm. This is just one step forward in getting the big picture tools that they need.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Griff. Well, as Griff was just telling us, the Democrats' plan to limit the number of detention beds is just the latest development in their mission to abolish ICE. Mark Morgan, former Border Patrol chief for the Obama administration, says less beds means more criminals on the streets.
That's a significant step towards really abolishing ICE via the checkbook. And there's actually two elements to their plan. They want to actually reduce overall bed space for ICE and then cap the interior enforcement. So basically, we already know that if you're a child or a family unit, you're going to be allowed in this country. That's catch and release 1.0. This will virtually mean catch and release 2.0. Common sense, right? As bed space goes down, illegal immigration goes up. ICE, Border Patrol turns everybody we apprehend over to ICE. As the bed space goes down, that means they're going to have to release more individuals into the interior United States. That is catch and release 2.0. From a common sense standpoint, that means that people here that are here illegally and have committed an additional crime and or charged of additional crime, ICE will be forced to release them.
Now, according to ICE statistics, 86% of the nearly 110,000 illegal immigrants detained under the Obama administration in 2016 had criminal records. And of the nearly 160,000 illegals detained last year, 66% had confirmed criminal past. Well, Beto O'Rourke taking part in a dueling march and rally against President Trump in El Paso. The Democrat painting a very different picture of safety to more than 1,000 supporters in his former congressional district.
Safe, not because of walls, but in spite of walls. Secure, because we treat one another with dignity and respect.
Well, about a mile away, President Trump mentioned O'Rourke, who lost his U.S. Senate race to Ted Cruz.
A young man who's got very little going for himself, except he's got a great first name. He challenged us.
O'Rourke will decide if he's running for president by the end of the month, but no announcement last night. Well, President Trump slamming Congresswoman Ilhan Omar for her apology after she accused a lobbying group of paying members of Congress to support Israel. And the president telling reporters, quote, "I think she should be ashamed of herself. I think it was a terrible statement, and I don't think her apology was adequate." And Doug McElway has the latest reaction on this story out of Washington.
Representative Ilhan Omar's apology came after a flurry of bipartisan criticism. Quote, "We have to always be willing to step back and think through criticism. This is why I unequivocally apologize." It stemmed from her Sunday night tweets that critics say were loaded with stereotypes about Jews and money. Quote, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby." When a follower asked who's paying American politicians to support Israel, Omar responded, AIPAC. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee is frequently accused by opponents of fomenting hatred of Iran. Hours later, the House Democratic leadership called Omar's tweets, quote, "deeply offensive" and demanded she apologize. One Republican critic suggests it's all an evolution of the Democratic Party's embrace of racial identity politics.
When you try to cultivate groups on the basis of race or religion or culture, you're going to run into the conflicts amongst those groups on the basis of religion, culture, and heredity.
But in a letter criticizing Omar, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler also accused her GOP critics of, quote, advancing their agenda by distracting those committed to equality and social justice. And recently, DNC Chairman Tom Perez offered only the mildest of rebukes of Omar.
The Democratic Party, our platform has been very clear about Israel. It's been very clear about dignity for both Israel and the Palestinian people.
After Omar's apology, she added this, and I quote, "At the same time, I reaffirm the problematic role of lobbyists in our politics, whether it be AIPAC, the National Rifle Association, or the fossil fuel industry. It's gone on too long, and we must be willing to address it." End quote. In Washington, Doug McElway, Fox News.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. Let's stick to Washington for a moment. Today, family and friends, they will say goodbye to the longest-serving congressman in history, John Dingell. Now, his funeral is this morning, and it's in his hometown of Dearborn, Michigan. His wife, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, getting emotional as she greeted hundreds of people paying respects in their community. On Thursday, a funeral mass will be held in Washington, D.C., before Dingell is laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery. And the Michigan Democrat died last week at the age of 92. Well, the other big story you do need to know about today, powerful winter storms slamming the U.S. from the northwest to the northeast. Rain now mixing with snow in the Seattle area, causing a slushy mess on the roads. The storm prompting a ground stop at the airport overnight. And in Iowa, a driver losing control on a snowy road, crashing into a police cruiser. No one was injured. And in the Northeast, snow expected to disrupt this morning's commute for millions. New Jersey's under a state of emergency. Upstate New York could see up to 2 feet of snow. We need Janice Dean in here to tell you some more details on that, but she will be coming up later. Well, the time now is about 11 minutes after the top of the hour. President Trump says the wall will save lives as lawmakers reach a deal to pay for border security and prevent another shutdown. Our next guest's son was killed by an illegal immigrant. Why she says the president's message was so refreshing to hear. And watching Netflix could cost you. The plan one state has in the works to tax the streaming service. That and more coming up, so don't go away.
We want to stop criminals from coming in. Walls save lives. Walls save tremendous numbers of lives. Safety is the birthright of every American, which is why we must finish the wall.
Well, the president making his case for a border wall at a packed rally in El Paso, Texas. The border wall committee announcing a deal, potential deal, a deal in principle, I think they're saying, with less than half the money the president wanted for a barrier. So will this be enough to secure the border? Angel mom Sabina Durden has called out Democrats for refusing to fund the wall, and she joins us now live. Thank you so much for joining us so early this morning. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you and good morning, Heather. It's nice being here.
Well, begin, if you can, by sharing a little bit about your son's story. I understand that back in 2012, July 12th, 2012, he was killed by an illegal immigrant who was driving drunk.
Yeah, he was close to the drunk limit, but he was driving without a license. He had 2 previous felonies, 2 DUIs, which he was placed on probation for. And he turned his truck in front of my son. He was riding his motorcycle to work at the 911 Sheriff's Dispatch Center in Riverside, California, and killed him instantly. And he only received a misdemeanor without gross negligence and served only 35 days.
You know, we look at these pictures of your son with his smile. You know, he had such dreams, right? He dreamed of becoming a licensed, he was a licensed pilot, and he wanted to become a deputy?
Yes, he wanted to become a helicopter pilot for the Sheriff's Department. That was his ultimate goal. Yes, ma'am.
You know, I want to go from your story to what Bob Menendez had to say in terms specifically of illegal immigrants with DUIs. Now, listen to this, and I want your take on it.
The president has decided to criminalize everybody who is an undocumented immigrant. If a person has a driving while under the influence violation, he is now making that, saying that that's a criminal.
Now, what do you think he's trying to say? I mean, is he trying to say that driving under the influence, if you're an illegal immigrant, it shouldn't be criminal?
Yeah, I guess he's having a double standard. So Americans get locked up for DUIs and illegal aliens don't. They shouldn't even be here in this country. This kind of excuse for them just draws more here. Why wouldn't they come? If they get excused, if they get leniency from judges like the killer of my son did.
I want to go back now to what the president had to say last night. I know that you were listening to his rally there in El Paso. What are your initial thoughts? Did you hear what you wanted to hear?
Yes, I did. I'm disappointed now about the deal with the money they allowed, but I'm sure he finds a way to build the wall, like he said anyways. He's a brilliant man. And it's so refreshing to see him live and feel the energy of the crowd and people that voted for him, that are excited what he does for our country.
And that was one of the concerns. So it's interesting to hear you say that you're disappointed in the amount of money, if that does end up being true.